Welcome to Trial by Podcast. My name is Alem, and together with my fellow law graduate Fadi, we will be taking a look at pro bono legal services. I think we all have a rough idea of what pro bono work might be, either from reading To Kill a Mockingbird at an early age in high school or watching movies like I Am Sam to Just Mercy. But we wanted to take a deeper dive into the world of pro bono legal services. We wanted to look at the origins of pro bono work. What does it look like, and why do lawyers do it? So, throwing it over to you, Fadi. How familiar were you with pro bono work before you embarked on your studies to be a lawyer?
Thanks, Alem. I think you're quite right in suggesting that most individuals who are not familiar with and or a part of the profession really inherit their knowledge of pro bono work from entertainment sources such as movies or books. I actually distinctly remember watching I Am Sam and thinking to myself that pro bono was nothing more than a fancy term for a good or service provided for free. Kind of like when you go to a coffee shop and you buy 9 coffees and you get the 10th one on the house. It wasn't until my time at uni that I realized and garnered a deeper appreciation for how pro bono work was so indispensable to both ensuring that the marginalized sects of our society receive the proper representation and access to justice that they deserve and require, but also in ensuring that the legal profession itself is codified with ethical and moral standards that ensure that it's seen as more than just a profession solely concerned with commercial pursuits.
I think that's a very good point about the legal profession. The term pro bono comes from the Latin pro bono publico, which means for the public good. And there are various professions that aim to do good for the public in providing services that are free or at a reduced fee, such as agriculture or accounting. However, despite that, I find that the concept of pro bono work affixes itself to the legal profession in a way that when referring to pro bono work, people's minds will drift to legal services. And I think in part this owes itself to the fact that carrying out legal services on a free or reduced cost basis is well established. It was the Honorable French, former Chief Justice of the High Court, that actually documented how pro bono work can be traced all the way back to the 12th century and potentially to ancient Rome itself. But I definitely do agree with you that the legal profession as an institution in of itself has helped inform pro bono practice.
Definitely, Alem, and I like that you brought up the Honorable French because it was actually one of his writings on pro bono work that really helped me to kind of see the differing insights that are offered with respect to how members of the profession view pro bono services. The Honorable French writes, it's pretty difficult to rationalize why the ethicality of the legal profession hinges on the provision of legal services in the form of pro bono work. He says that practitioners and law practices themselves already adhere to requirements of competence, diligence, reasonable care, and honesty. So why is it that they have to go and observe this extra requirement of providing pro bono work? When I first read this point by the Honorable French, my mind harkened back to one of the units I had undertaken at university, namely remedies, and I distinctly remember opening up my remedies textbook and seeing on the first page it was put quite axiomatically that where there is a transgression, there must be some kind of a recourse. And I think that sentiment really epitomizes why pro bono legal services are instrumental. I think with other goods and services, when they're given to you for free or they're provided at a lower cost, you might regard that as a additional benefit or a stroke of good fortune. But when it comes to the law itself, not being able to access justice effectively means that you are unable to right a wrong, especially in instances where you know a wrong has been committed against you. I think the Honorable Khousho, former Chief Justice of the High Court, puts it very nicely when she says that most indigent litigants know that their cases have merits. She says that they know some kind of transgression has been committed against them and that on the facts and on the law, they are entitled to that recourse I was talking about. But what she says they lack is the requisite advocacy skills and ability to navigate complex legal frameworks. And that ultimately is what deprives them of the ability of accessing justice.
Definitely. And I think not only does pro bono work aid in helping the accessibility to justice, but the courts themselves have reasoned that the administration of justice and advancement of the public interest actually hinges on pro bono work being an availability to litigants. Going so far as to say that for practitioners, there's this sense of duty or boundness to assist in the administration of justice, which may be enshrined in pro bono practices, which also arises out of the rights and privileges obtained from being admitted into practice. All that being considered, it may be said that the profession owes itself a pat on the back, as more practices are steadily increasing their pro bono hours and more lawyers are actively getting involved. In an article by Lawyers Weekly, it was revealed that solicitors provided up to 69 hours of pro bono work, which was almost double the annual target and an almost 50% increase of pro bono hours in the last 5 years. So Fadi, do you think the profession can be left on cruise control with respect to providing pro bono services?
Look, Alem, I think definitely as more time elapses, the profession is becoming more and more imbued with normative and value-based approaches and notions of providing to the community and providing services for free. And look, I know it's purely anecdotal, but during my time in law school, I think a lot of my peers expressed that they were more attracted to the prospect of being able to contribute and volunteer their time and services for free or on a pro bono basis, rather than being attracted to what are the more commercial benefits of a career in law. In saying that, pro bono remains more of a marathon than a sprint. You're right that practitioners and law practices are diverting and dedicating more of their time and resources to giving members of the community access to justice and facilitating free legal services. But the question is, how much of that is attributable to the underfunding of legal services such as legal centers and legal aid? This underfunding has invariably resulted in the need for private practices to pick up the slack. In 2024, National Legal Aid actually documented that more individuals were requiring legal services because of a steady population growth, and that individuals were accessing Legal Aid Commission websites and hotlines at a rate of almost double and triple to what we've seen before. This statistic does not comprehensively account for the missing middle either, which are those litigants too indigent to afford legal services, but not so indigent so as to qualify for pro bono work. I think there is a need, therefore, to reorient our understanding of pro bono legal services. Yes, it's an altruistic and philanthropic endeavor, but at the same time, how much are the hardships and challenges we experience with pro bono legal services the result of what is a multivariate issue in our judicial system?
And I think that speaks volumes about this ambition to one day eradicate the phenomenon of inaccessibility to justice, and instead serves to remind us that sometimes it's okay to take things one case at a time. Because helping just one person is still helping realize the administration of justice. And I think our firm's involvement in pro bono work actually helped inspire the both of us to come up with this talk. McCabe's has a pretty expansive reach when it comes to pro bono work, helping members from beleaguered communities, charities, public interest cases, and even constituents of the missing middle. It's definitely those relationships we have with places like Justice Connect and the Redfern Legal Center that remind us not only can professionals mediate between paid and pro bono work, but also that lawyers, in being professionals, possess a degree of knowledge and expertise that they can make others the beneficiaries of.
Definitely. I think when some of the principals and senior associates were describing the kind of work McCabe's engages in from a pro bono perspective, it definitely served to inspire me to want to kind of put my hand up the first opportunity I get to try and also experience that side of the profession. I think exposure to the more philanthropic and altruistic side of the profession, especially at such an early stage of our careers, will definitely help to serve to ground us in understanding what the profession is and why lawyers engage in the kind of work they do. And honestly, I'd advocate for all junior practitioners or even law students to put their hand up to serve some kind of pro bono commitment whenever they get the chance.
For sure. And I think as we've canvassed, there's a lot of hardship associated, not only with pro bono work and the profession, but with external institutions outside the remit of our control. Nevertheless, as the Honorable Khousho said, the goal of providing ubiquitous access to justice for all people should continue to be a goal worth pursuing. And I think we can definitely both agree, and we hope that all of you listening in to this edition of McCabe's Trial by Podcast can come to agree with that sentiment as well.
Well, we definitely hope all of you learned something new about pro bono legal services. Thank you for tuning in into another episode of Trial by Podcast.